In this video, I'll be showing you how to use your Launchkey to make music in Ableton. At this point, your Launchkey should be connected to your machine, and you should be ready to use Ableton. We'll be going through the following steps: opening and setting up Ableton Live, understanding Live and its features, laying down a simple loop, and finally, launching clips. Open up Ableton Live, and once you've done that, go to Live, Preferences, and then Link MIDI. Configure the MIDI settings to the ones shown on screen. For Windows, go to Options, Preferences, and then Link MIDI. Configure the MIDI settings shown on screen. On the left, you'll see Live's browser. You can use this to explore and discover all of the instruments and sounds that come with Ableton. Let's open and close an instrument. I'm going to choose Sounds, Bass, and drag and drop the first bass sound into the bottom panel. Not all of your instruments will look like this, but they will be similar. You'll see 8 macro controls that you can use to change the sound you've just loaded. These correspond with the 8 rotaries you see on your Launchkey. Let's have a go. Use the rotaries on your Launchkey to adjust the sound you've just loaded. You'll see the corresponding macro change on screen. Remember to make sure the In Control button is always on. There are 3 In Control buttons. The first In Control button controls the 8 rotaries. The second applies to the faders, and the bottom In Control button controls the pads. To close the instrument, simply right-click the instrument header in the bottom panel and select Delete. Tempo control. Above Live's browser, you'll see the tempo control area. This is where you can change the tempo and turn the metronome on or off. I recommend keeping the metronome on. This will help you practice your timing and consistency. Transport controls. This is next to the tempo control area. Think of it like the pedals in a car. Controlling Ableton's actions, you can play, stop and record all in this area. You can also access these controls directly from your Launchkey, like this. Press play on your Launchkey and watch the track status bar move along, as shown here. You should also hear your metronome. Session view. Session view is in the middle of your Ableton screen. This is where you can have fun with your Launchkey, launching clips and experimenting with loops and arrangements. Session view is a grid that consists of clips, tracks, and scenes. The tracks come in columns and the scenes come in rows. Your Launchkey provides an 8x2 view of your clips in session view on Ableton. The tracks come in columns and the scenes come in rows. Just make sure you're in control mode. Before we begin, let's delete the audio tracks and replace them with MIDI tracks, as we're not going to be recording any audio in this tutorial. You can do this by right-clicking around here and selecting Insert MIDI track. Now let's choose a tempo. I'm going to choose 134 as it fits with the vibe of the music I want to create. It's up to you what you want to make. Ableton offers a wide range of different instruments, letting you make anything from hip-hop, electronic, and so on. Here I have a list of suggested tempos based on some genres. They aren't strict tempos, just some helpful guidelines to get you started. Enter your desired tempo into the tempo control area. Let's also enable record quantization. This feature will automatically adjust the errors in your timing when playing. For both Windows and Mac, select Edit, Record Quantization, and here I recommend you select 16th note quantization. Before we start making music, remember, you don't have to record the exact same patterns, but if you want to follow along with the tutorial, just use the same instruments and effects as I am. Now let's lay down some drums. Go to Drums in Live's browser and choose a drum kit. I'm going to choose Swan Song Kit, so let's drag and drop it into the bottom panel. I'm now going to rename this track Drums by right-clicking at the top and selecting Rename. You can play the drum kit by going into MIDI mode. You can do this by switching off in control mode. Let's have a go. Now let's record the drums. The first pad represents the first clip in session view. When it's red, it means that it's ready to capture your playing. When you're ready to record, press the first red pad and then press the bottom in control button immediately afterwards. Once you've played the part you've recorded, switch on in control mode and then press the red pad again to stop the recording. I'll demonstrate here. Hit the red pad which starts a recording after a count-in. Then press the in control button, taking the pads out of in control mode, allowing you to play the drum rack. Now play what you want to record. To stop the recording, finish playing what you wanted to record, press the in control button, putting the pads back into session view, and then press the red pad again to stop the recording. As you can tell, it's not looping, so we want to double click on our first clip in Ableton Session View to open the MIDI note editor. Identify the best part of your take and select the end of the loop brace to pull it back to where you feel is right. Mine is here, so I'm pulling it back to bar 5. This should now loop, so let's have a listen. Now we're going to record a bass line. Let's go back to Live's browser, open up Sounds, Bass, and I'm going to find Electric Drive. Select the correct track header and drag and drop the sound into the bottom panel. You may have noticed the second pad has turned red, meaning it's record enabled and ready to capture your playing. Now, I don't want to play this bass line in this octave. I want to play it in a lower one. So I'm going to use the octave shift controls and move it down an octave, allowing me to play it in the same position. Have a listen. When you're ready to record, press the second pad, corresponding to the second clip in session view. Just remember that this time you won't be selecting the in control button as you're playing the notes on the keyboard and not on the pads. Let's go. Hit the pad to record, and when you're happy with what you've played, hit the same pad to stop. Once again, you may have noticed it hasn't looped. So let's double-click the file to open the MIDI note editor and use the loop brace to loop the best part of your take. Again, I'm pulling mine back to 5. Now I want to listen to everything back. I'm going to use the scene launch button to play. This allows you to launch multiple clips within a scene simultaneously. The top round button triggers a row of clips, and the bottom one stops the clips from playing. If you want to launch them individually, you can do this by pressing a clip like this. You can introduce another clip like this. Melody. Now let's record a melody. Just before we do this, let's rename the track we just made. For the melody, I'm going to use the same instrument again, but in a higher octave. Go back into Live's browser, open Sounds, and then Bass, and then drag and drop Electric Drive into the bottom panel. Now I'm going to take this opportunity to experiment with some melody ideas over the existing loop. Remember, we're not recording, so I'm going to press the scene launch button to play over the existing loop. Now I've decided that I quite like the sound here, so that's what I'm going to be recording. Press the third pad and get ready to record. In this take, I actually managed to capture everything I needed within the 4 bars. So I don't need to choose the best part of my take. If you do, remember, all you have to do is double-click on the clip in Session View, open up the MIDI note editor, and use the loop brace to select the best part of your take. Finishing touches. Now that we've completed all stages of the music making guide, let's make it sound more interesting. Listening to the melody back with the bass line, I think it needs something else. I'm thinking a delay. I'm going to go back into Live's browser, open up Audio Effects, Delays, and then Clean Delays. Here I'm going to select dotted 8th note and drag and drop it into the bottom panel after the instrument. Let's listen to it back. I'm going to launch the bass line first and then the delayed melody. I'm pretty happy with this, but unfortunately the track levels don't sound good. I can adjust this using the faders on the Launchkey. The tracks in Session View correspond to the faders on the Launchkey. Now, as you can see, my faders are down, which means they're not actually engaged with Ableton. But if I move them, the faders on Ableton will react. Now I'm going to start to level everything out using the faders on my Launchkey. I'm happy with the levels now, but I feel that the delay is too prominent. So I'm going to go and experiment with the dry and wet knob on the 8th note delay plugin. Now I'm going to turn up the melody and then launch the bass line and drums. Now I'm not really happy with the drums. I feel as though they need something else. So I'm going to select the drum track and use the rotaries on the Launchkey to control the drum macros on Ableton. Launching. Here I'm going to show you an example of launching that helps you experiment with different types of arrangements. As I mentioned before, each clip can be launched on the pads themselves when the In Control button is on. If you've had any issues with this guide, use the link below to get in touch with us and we'll be happy to help.